am su- super sorry about that.
It's cool. I
Yeah.
get it, man. I actually thought it was me for a little while because I've been using my laptop all morning, and I'm just wondering if it's like maybe it's just getting tired. No, but it's the connection. So
No,
um
yeah, I mean, so apparently I was connecting to just the original router and not the extender. So the extender is
I
like its
see.
own, yeah, it's like its own router, even if it's connected to another thing.
Yeah.
Um,
So you need some like troubleshooting with that for a little while, I guess, huh? I don't know.
yeah, I mean, I could spend like the next, 15 minutes like getting the manual out,
Yeah,
figuring it
don't
out,
worry
talking
about
to
that,
my,
man. I don't want
yeah,
you to have to go through that right now, you know?
yeah,
Yeah, no, it's cool.
yeah. So,
Um,
um, but actually, I am kind of glad we're not live streaming anymore because it definitely takes a little bit of the load off, kind of makes it a little bit easier to,
yeah, you're a
I
little bit
think,
more laid
navigate.
back. It's
Yeah.
true. One of the things that I was been doing during the pandemic, there's this app that's called Stereo. Have you heard of it?
Yes, yes, I have. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's similar because you know that people are watching, so you can't really have like you can have a conversation as natural as you can make it, but at the same time, you know you're entertaining someone or you know that you want it to be more, fascinating. You're hitting certain points and you're trying to make sure that people are still staying tuned, staying tuned in.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I get it.
Yeah, and I think it sometimes makes for good conversation because like you have to make things sort of tight, but then at the same time I often feel I can turn this off now. I often feel like a lot of the stuff I
Pressured
say starts to come,
a little bit.
yeah, pressure, and
Yeah.
it just comes across as like sterile a little bit.
Yeah.
At least for me, it's sometimes like I find myself talking and I'm like, what am I even saying? Like, this is not how a human being would describe
Yeah,
anything.
and there's something about it where it's like you feel like you're trying to achieve some goal. You're trying to talk about something specific that's like the topic of the conversation. And you're trying so hard to adhere to that, to adhere to a specific goal, that you're not
Hmm.
necessarily attempting as much as you should to just have a good time, like so.
Yeah.
Um, so there's an
And what's
element of that.
ironic, I think, is that if you did have a good time, that would be a good interview.
Hell
That would
yeah.
be a great
No,
interview.
exactly.
And so it's a bit of a catch-22 where like you have to try without trying, very Taoist, very Zen. What is the sound of one hand clapping sort of thing.
Uh-huh.
Um, so it's a little confusing. But so you're based out of where again? I can't remember.
I mean, okay, so technically, I guess you could say I'm like an LA comic, but I'm not really an LA comic. I live in Long Beach. So I'm in a
Hmm.
weird spot because like I moved here and like literally, if you don't know the area too much, Long Beach is literally right between LA and the OC area. Or
Hmm.
like what I mean is that like LA has its own scene, the OC has its own scene, and then Long Beach doesn't really have its own scene. Like they kind of do, but not really. Like they don't have like basically people that do shows in Long Beach are either from OC or from LA.
So there's no Long Beach OG stuff.
Yeah, not really. And that's the thing. I think that that's why I've kind of identified somewhat of a void here, and I don't know if it's possible to continue to try to like
Fill it.
build a scene in this area. I really do think Long Beach is a super fucking cool city. I love it here. And it'd be cool if there was a thing here. So yeah,
I see.
right now.
So it's interesting that you say that because that's sort of kind of how I feel about Pittsburgh. I mean, there
Hmm.
is a Pittsburgh scene, but obviously, if I
Yeah.
wanted to pursue big comedy, I'd go to Boston, I'd go to New York, I'd go to Philly. And so then it's like, wait, but hold on. Do I leave for the big ocean or do I try to make the lake really nice? Like, do I try to establish myself in a smaller area, bust my chops? And you know what I mean? Like, do
Uh
I want to bring the scene here to where I'm at.
Yeah, that is always somewhat of a dilemma. You know, there's something about that. There's something about because if you think about it, LA and Boston and New York and Chicago, these places are huge. Like these places have been part of comedy for a long time, and it's like it can be difficult to establish your own thing in a place that's already that established, you know. So
Mhm.
you do occasionally think about doing that kind of, but at the same time, there's I mean, there's a lot of elements to consider. Like, I mean, for comedy, I'm going to give you a little bit of an example because I had a friend who produced a show kind of a little bit on the outskirts of LA. It was in a neighborhood called El Sereno. It was a really, really chill neighborhood. It's like not nearly as crowded and dense as like LA proper. It was like
Mhm.
relaxed, laid back, but it had enough foot traffic where there were more than enough people going to his shows every week, you know, in that
Oh
spot.
wow.
And it was just like the perfect area. But what I'm trying to say is that if you're gonna come up with like a spot for comedy, make sure there's foot traffic. That's just not something that people think about that much, because this guy, after this show was over, after this venue stopped holding his shows, because they had, there was something, there was like some zoning laws that they were violating with like the stage or whatever. So they had to tear
Oh
that shit
geez.
down. It was fucked up because one of my most favorite stages to perform on. It was so much fun to do a show there. And I had to like, I co-hosted with them a few times and we had some really good comics. But he moved to a spot in Pasadena. No, it wasn't Pasadena. Eagle Rock, really close to Pasadena. It was part of LA still, but way less foot traffic, way fewer people going there, like just passing by, you know. And I feel like
Mhm.
that's something that people don't really talk about. If you're in a comedy club or if you're in an area that's like kind of bustling with comedy, it's always a spot that is already crowded anyway, kind of, you know.
Uh-huh.
Like, I mean, New York is always crowded, you know, like New York's always having people walking around.
Mhm.
You got to have, and like, if you're going to find a spot in Pittsburgh, you got to find a spot that's like a downtown area, a spot that has, doesn't have to be downtown, but just a spot that has a lot of foot traffic. And I think you'll have a lot more success. It's my
Mhm.
suggestion.
That's a
What I
really
think
good
about
point.
it. Yeah.
No, I mean it's interesting that you say that because I was just talking to a few friends of mine about building a sort of a series of outdoor shows with other college students. So you know we've got a lot of parks, a lot of outdoor areas in the area with a huge amount of foot traffic, especially in the spring.
Perfect.
Everybody just
Perfect.
comes out like ants. Yeah. And you know you could easily get 70 people in an hour just zoop zoop in out.
And they'll watch. What else are they doing? They're walking through a park, you know, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So
As
I
long as
mean,
it's not bombing
it's
hard or whatever, you know,
oh,
like,
geez.
yeah.
Well, that's on. You know what's
That's gonna
funny?
happen, by the way. Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, of course,
Yeah.
that will happen. Actually, okay.
Yeah.
So the next question I have is, I mean, how long have you been doing comedy for?
At this point, it's 6 years, but I feel like the last year, it's like, what even was that year? You know, but like, yeah. So, yeah, that's kind of where I am right now. And you know, I mean, it's weird because the entire time that I've been doing it, I feel a lot more comfortable doing it than I was. And I'm at a point where it's like I feel good about myself doing it and it's fun. But like I never really, I don't know if I had like a full year where I was able to dedicate all of the time that I've wanted to comedy. There's always some other shit happening where it's like, and I envy people that are able to do that. I have a friend right now, he has this career and he's like, yeah, I'm on salary. I kind of do my job whenever. And then it allows me to travel whenever I want because it's all remote. It's like a
Oh
really
my
good job,
God.
really good benefits. And it's
Mhm.
like he can literally live anywhere. And it's like, dude, that's so fucking perfect. You know,
Yeah.
like want that. You know, like it'd be so easy to pursue comedy with something that's that secure, but also it's that versatile, you know, like
Secure and versatile. Yeah.
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 I've been thinking about that where it's like if I can get something like that, man, like that'd be fucking amazing.
What would
Uh,
be? I mean, what are you doing right now?
man, I've been, that's the thing is like I've kind of been like moving back and forth between whether like I was supposed to be a teacher and then that didn't work out. I literally went through like almost the whole program. And I can't really give you a good reason as to why I didn't finish, but there was that, and I'm kind of just doing a bunch of gigs right now to kind of make it, break even. But I'm doing a lot better than I was financially like a year ago. I'm actually surprised like how well I'm doing based on the shit that I'm actually doing, Like I could be getting my own apartment soon, a new car soon, and it's like I don't know how I'm doing it, but I'm doing it. Yeah, but I am honestly like I'm contemplating right now whether I should pursue another career, anything that I want to pursue. I just want to make sure I can do comedy, man. I want to make sure that I have that in my, my ultimate goal that I'm kind of like moving toward. Even if I don't make it like big, I want to be, maybe I could be a writer somewhere. Maybe I can do, you know what I mean? Something.
Would you say would you say that you're more of a writer or more of a performer?
That's a good question.
I mean, that's a hard dichotomy to get
it's
down.
Difficult,
but
yeah, it's difficult to navigate, like as far as like answering that. It's funny. Everyone has always told me, if they haven't seen me and they see me on stage, like, you're a pretty good writer, dude. You're funny. Like, you write good jokes. No one has ever told me like, oh my God, like they've never really like described me as a performer. But I think that's interesting though, because by the way, I miss live comedy, and I know that sounds obvious, but
no, I believe it.
There's something in live comedy that, like, honestly, I did some weird shit. Okay, like there's so much shit that you can do that you don't even think about unless you're like in person. Like I literally have a joke where I've actually done it a couple times on Zoom, but it doesn't feel the same. I literally have a joke while fly around the stage, like pretend that I'm flying around the stage. At some point during the joke, I'll do that, like in between the last punchline, There's a reason for it. I don't want to get into it, but it's just, you can get so much more creative when you have the space of a stage, like.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you say that. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, so I missed that. And at the same time, when you're talking to people who are in front of you, you would not believe the amount of bits that you can write just based off of audience interaction. Not even just crowd work, but like call and response type of shit that like is really funny that you don't realize you can do until you experiment.
Yeah.
That's all. Yeah.
Yeah, you get the riff and you get the refrain. Yeah. I totally hear it. I mean, I very recently went and did some live gigs. I did one booked gig and then one open mic. And just like I mean, I had been on stage before. I had been on stage about 10 times for stand-up and about like dozens of times for improv and sketch. So I had been on stage before. But after a year of being starved, hours and hours and days of Zoom comedy and then going on stage, I was just like, it felt like my body was attached to a car battery. I was like, oh, yeah. I mean, I was just so in it. And I did well, but you're absolutely right. There is something about being in that space, being in that soup that just, you feel like you're Mario with the star. It's just,
No, yeah, exactly. I was like, you listen to Marin or no, his podcast?
Occasionally, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, honestly, he kept me sane in so many instances during the pandemic, during the whatever. There's just recently he had an episode where he was talking about how he scopes the crowd out before every show. How literally he'll get there like an hour before, and he'll just like he'll watch the stage and then he'll watch everyone coming in and he'll be like, all right, gotta watch out for that guy. It's like, that guy's probably not gonna like me or whatever. Like he kind of knows and he understands the rhythms and like just like how people are going to react to him and like how he's like trying to judge before he gets on stage to kind of get a good idea of how he should approach his set, which I thought was kind of fascinating because I never really, not that I didn't have that opportunity, but it's like, it's not something that everyone thinks about, and I feel like it really is really helpful. And when you're up on stage, you are reacting in the moment, but it's like literally every set is different because of
Mhm.
like people, because of the
Yeah,
elements. Yeah, it's
they give
fascinating.
you they give you the initial conditions, and then you start the simulation, and that's kind of, you're the computer, and they are all of the bits of information, and you're trying to, calculate them and graph them and put them all together. You can tell that I am a scientist based on the analogy I'm using.
That
Um,
and your NASA sweater. So
oh yeah. Well, I mean, this. So I didn't realize it was about maybe after like the 10th show that I realized this was all I was wearing for Zoom shows. Like when I got this in Christmas break, I was like, oh, this is comfy. I like wearing this. And so now people see the NASA t-shirt, they see usually the show aesthetic background, and they're like, okay, that's Z, that's his thing, that's his style, aesthetic, whatever you want to call it. So, and it's comfy. It's a nice sweatshirt. I like it.
yeah,
Uh,
I mean, it's cool. A lot of, I feel like it is kind of a thing right now too. I've seen a lot of NASA shirts and all that, like,
I mean, it's a cool
I mean,
organization. Yeah.
yeah, no, I mean, it's also like, I mean, we're doing some crazy shit out there. We just landed another rover on the moon, not on Mars. Sorry, never
Hmm.
mind. So
No, it's
that was,
wild.
yeah. What do you think about
So,
that, by the way? Do you think we
what do
should
I
be
think
doing
about it?
that? Do you think we should be
What?
exploring Mars? Or do you think it's pointless? Some
I
people think it's pointless. I don't
I don't
know.
think any science is pointless. I definitely see all of it as being worthwhile. Um, it's like, what do you mean when you say pointless? I mean, like,
Well, this is what I mean. You've probably heard this argument up to this point, but it's like
mhm.
nothing lives in Mars, like we're not really going to be making any headway toward building something sustainable on that planet. Why don't we just focus on, making sure that our planet will survive as long as we can make it survive and not put so much resources into like exploring a dead planet. I think that's like the one of the criticisms right now on Mars exploration. But
Well, I mean, okay, I hear that, but like, however much money we're throwing at space, we're throwing 800,000 times that amount towards blowing each other up.
yeah.
So, like anytime someone's like, yeah, what are we doing? Fucking building these rockets that don't hit people. It's like, well, shit. I mean, gosh, if
How do
they're
you
gonna
frame
go
it that way? That's
anywhere,
funny. Uh,
yeah, yeah, no, I mean, like I hear the argument and I'm just like, okay, dude, all right, if you only knew what goes into fucking the next generation of kernel walkie talkies, you would eat your heart out. This
I
is so.
think another thing is that they were like, "Hey, how come we're not like exploring Europa? How come we're not exploring other places that are more
Oh yeah,
likely
like
to have life?"
Titan. Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like I did hear a lot of conversations about this, and the scientists are kind of like, "Yeah, but like those places are way farther than Mars. It'd
They're a
be,
lot harder to get to.
yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, but yeah, I mean, I don't see it ever. It's like, why does anybody do anything? Why do we make art? Why do we tell jokes? Why do we draw pictures? It's just, it's a thing to do between the cradle and the grave, and it's fun, and it gets people excited, and it's hard, and we learn things, and I think it's worth it. I think it pays for itself. But
yeah. We're still going to be learning about ancient life, maybe on that planet. Who knows? Like who the
oh
fuck
yeah,
knows? Implications of that would be, yeah. So
you ever see the movie, or you ever read the book Stranger in a Strange Land?
no, but I've heard of it, and other people have talked about it. What about
Yeah,
it?
oh, it's just about a dude from Mars. That's literally it.
That's cool.
That's the whole. You ever like start? That's the interesting thing about conversation. You ever like start a sentence fragment or a sentence thread, and you say it, and then you're like, "There's nothing really beyond me just saying this." You know what I
Yes.
mean?
I've done it
It's just
way too many times to count. Something that I do too is like I'll ask questions that I don't have answers to. Like
yeah.
you do that a lot. Like I'll ask someone a question and they're like, "Yeah, well, great. I don't know. What do you think?" I'm like, "I just wanted to see what you were gonna say. I'm
I
sorry."
hope. Yeah, I hope you had something smart to say, because I am actually at a loss.
Exactly.
Yeah, I do that all the time. I think it's mostly just a function of wanting to hear myself talk a lot of the time. I think I just want to hear the sound of my own voice.
I think like
Um,
another part of it is that for me at least is that like if I don't have anything to say, maybe they have some, maybe we can like progress the conversation in some way. And this sounds like it could be interesting, you know? So I'll like ask this
mhm.
question, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like a little hangnail. It's like a little conversational hangnail, you know, just rip that
Yeah,
baby off. Although that's a very gross analogy, I realize.
this is kind
Okay,
of, yeah.
question.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
What does writing, let's say I ask you, how much did you write today? And you tell me an hour. What went into that hour? What was that hour look like? I mean, it doesn't have to be an hour, but no,
Okay,
no,
no,
okay,
but it's an interesting
but
question.
the you know, yeah, I mean, like, what does writing look like to you when you say writing?
Oh my God, it's so different than it used to be for me. Because I think initially I would like force myself to write every week, every day, a little bit of something. But now, honestly, it's come to a point where it's like I kind of this is it's going to be kind of a roundabout answer. I apologize, but
No, fire away.
so for me, the best stuff that I write is always based off of like direct experiences that I have with the world. So if not a lot happened that day, to be honest, I just don't write that day. That's kind of
Okay.
like what happens with me. But if something happened to me that's like crazy or kind of out of the ordinary, I'll write it down immediately.
Hmm.
Like if I almost get run over, you know, I'll write that down. I have a joke where I talk about almost getting run over, and then the guy that passes me,
Oh.
you don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Like
I
it
love it.
happened
I
to
love
me.
that joke.
You know?
Uh,
So it's
that's
like
one of
it
my
was just
favorites.
so strange. I'm like, I need to write that down. There's no way I'm letting that go because
Hmm.
that's first of all, it's like just funny that it happened. And
Oh, it's
then
hilarious.
yeah, if you by the way, tip for writing jokes, if it's already funny, you have like material for like some kind of gold there, you know, because like if it's already funny and then you can come up with like analogies for to like other things that are also funny, then it's like,
Hmm.
you know, I think Seinfeld, it's hard to explain, but Seinfeld's one of Seinfeld's tips is that too. Start with funny. He says start with funny. Your
Start with
premise.
fun. That sounds, yeah.
Your premise is already funny. And if you're already starting at a point where they're already laughing a little bit, and then you move on to punchlines that are funnier, you got something there for sure, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So that's
So,
I like to do that.
so real life experiences. Do you journal at all?
Not really. Maybe I should. Again, if I'm being honest, I'm incredibly disorganized. The
Fair
shit
enough.
that I write is everywhere. It's not like I'll write it on a piece of paper, but I'll also write it on my phone. And I do have like this little notebook that I'll write jokes in also. And it's just like, and I'll record it sometimes, but not all the time. It depends on the bit and how, like, if it sounds like really mechanical when I'm trying, like, reciting it during an open mic or whatever, sometimes I'll record it and I'll be like,
Hmm.
why does it sound shitty? You know, and then I'll figure out why it sounds shitty and then I'll
Hmm.
rework it some way. But it's always going through different like stages of synthesis, you know, and it's just keep moving through it.
Hmm.
Um, Gary Goldman has a joke that he hasn't finished in 10 years. He always keeps bringing it back. He always changes it.
But
And
do you know which one?
fucking, I wish I remembered what it was.
The one about the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, or abbreviations, or Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's
Man,
Freak
I
Out.
like the Trader Joe's one, but I was gonna say that remember, I don't remember. I got it. You could probably find it pretty easily, but just because it's something that he talks about a lot, this is
Hmm.
something that like, you know, just his process and how like literally like one of his quotes is he's been telling people is that a joke is like he basically like a joke is never done for him. You can always come
Oh
up
yeah,
with an angle for it. You
until
know,
the joke isn't over until the audience is mouthing it with you. I
is
think
that
is
what it
something
was?
he
Is that
says.
his thing?
I think. I mean, yeah, I've got his tips bookmarked, so I always read them.
Oh shit, he does that, huh? Is that a Twitter thing?
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah, his 366 comedy tips.
Yeah.
Oh, they're
Those
so
are
good.
great tips. I'm so glad you brought them up because I literally fucking forgot that he was doing that.
Oh, they're
Um,
amazing.
yeah, they're great. He's awesome. But I will say this: if I was to think of anybody that I would kind of align myself when it comes to comedy, I wouldn't say him, even though I think he's really good at what he does.
Mhm.
Because at a certain point, I will be listening to him for a while, and I'd be like, I don't care about any of this. Like, you ever
Mm,
get to that point where it's like,
yeah.
because
What are you
it's like
doing,
he'll
man?
just
Yeah.
talk about like, I mean, because he's one of those guys where it's like Seinfeld does the same thing where he'll talk about mundane things, but he'll try to
Mhm.
make it funny, you know? Gary Goldman does the same thing, but I feel like sometimes, like, even though it's funny and he's doing it really well, and I can
He
respect
is still talking
everything
about
he does,
cabbages.
he's still talking. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
He's still
So
talking
it's
about
like,
cabbages.
yeah, at a certain point, it's like, how far into this should I care? I don't know. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
that's what I
And
mean.
something always snaps you out of it, or something can snap you out of it where you're like invested. It's like, wait. We're talking about bricks right now. Like what? Like you just kind of like look left, look right, like what the yeah, I just got taken for a ride.
Exactly. But he's
So
great at it. So,
no, he can take me for a ride for a while. He can.
uh,
I'm on that thing for some time.
yeah.
Um, but who would you say? Who would you say you do align yourself with? I think you're
So
about to
this
answer.
from the very beginning. By the way, my comedy journey is weird because it's like I wasn't a comedy fan for most of my life. And I know that's weird, but it's like I remember the first stand-up comedy that I saw was Bill Cosby's himself. That was literally the
Mm.
very first special I ever saw. And I was a kid and my family was like really into it. They're like, we should all watch this together as a family. And I'm like, yeah, this is great. We were all like laughing. And like,
I love how your whole family sounds really broy. Like, yeah, man, this is awesome. Let's fucking put on Bill
fuck yeah,
Cosby. Yeah.
bro.
Mom, turn on the TV, mom. Okay, kid. All right, son.
It was like my dad passing a blunt to my mom for some reason, and then like,
Put on Bill Cosby.
it is like that at the dentist, though, isn't it? Like,
You want some of this, Andrew? Oh, you're too young. You're too young. No, you're not. No, you're not.
like
But you,
stoned every day watching Bill Cosby, man. No, it's like obviously before all the crazy shit, you know, all the everything we knew about him, but. And it's weird because it's like you'll look at people who are fucking monsters and just know that they're still good at the art that they did. Like Bill Cosby was fucking really good at what he did, you know,
yeah.
like it's weird to say that, but it's true. But anyway, I didn't know that was stand-up. I was watching that as a kid and I'd be like, oh my God, this is so funny. I didn't know what stand-up was. I was just like, this is weird. He's just talking to people. He's just by
There's no
himself on
pictures.
stage talking to
Yeah.
like a group of people and he's funny. What is this? Like, this is like, I've never seen anything like this in my life. And no one else has ever done this as far as I know. You know, as a
Yeah.
kid, I didn't know.
People don't do anything like stand up in real life. You know what I mean? Like nobody, like we all doodle and we all hum, but nobody stands in the middle of the fucking office and goes, okay, everybody, please listen to me for 35 minutes while I regale you about my dick. You
It's
know?
crazy. If you think about it, it is like almost clinically insane, this art form, you know, like it's
Yeah.
the thing that we do that we like, it's I mean, I can't come up with a proper term at this point. I'm thinking it's the audacity of it
Mm,
is what I'm trying to say. It's incredibly
absolutely.
it's an incredibly audacious thing to do, to just expect that, and you know that's going to be a thing that people watch and listen to. That's why the people judging you constantly more than any other art form, you know. Anyway,
No, I hear you.
yeah,
Well, and it's also to use that bubble example with like Gary Goldman. I mean, it's like when you're on stage, you're blowing up this bubble of
yeah,
pretension, right? Where it's
yeah,
like, we're all listening to me. I have something to say. This is important. And it's like, so like each joke is you breathing into that balloon. But if you show any sort of like doubt, or if you show any sort of like, well, wait, hold on, why are you listening to me? Pop. Like immediately, the whole thing is like, wait, why are we listening to this? Like, what the fuck? Like, we're all just in a row. We're all looking at you. Like, what? You know, It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, like the amount of time it takes for people to turn on you and like never come back, it's so easy for that to happen, you know, like it's literally,
Oh,
yeah.
in a heartbeat.
Yeah, literally in a heartbeat. But when I first, okay, so the first comedy special that I saw where I was like, oh my God, like what is this? I need to know more about this. It was Mark Maron's Thinky Pain.
Thinky Pain. Okay, that's
Yeah.
a good one.
Yeah, that was the first one I saw where I was like, okay, I need to know more about all of it. Like if you think about it now, Mark Maron's Thinky Pain was like 9 years ago at this point, you know?
Yeah, that
That's
was
a
some
while
time
ago.
ago.
Yeah. So that's when I really like delved into comedy at that point. And I just started listening to it every day. And I almost got like a not really encyclopedic knowledge, but I just like
They're gonna just leave it at semi. I got a semi
I
whenever
got
I
a
listen to
semi.
Martin.
Then I stand up and I have a boner and walk away. Like
But semi
hear
encyclopedia.
this. But I listened to that and I studied it and I thought that his anger was just so funny. He has the funniest anger, I think, out of any comedian. But anyway, so I identified with that, but that wasn't really something that I was like, oh my God, I feel like that's going to be me on stage until I listened to like Pete Holmes.
Mm-hmm.
You know Pete Holmes?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
So Pete Holmes, the reason I like him a lot, as far as a comedian goes, by the way, as a person, as an interviewer, he's kind of weird, a little bit annoying and pretentious, but like
he can be. Yeah, he can be.
Yeah. But as a comedian, I think I just thought that what he was doing on stage was like he was just saying, okay, guys, calm down. Let's just be silly. Let's just be silly for a while. Let's just talk about stupid things. Let's talk about stupid shit.
What you know about green eggs and ham? Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I mean. You know, like what you know about green egg, that whole thing is like, I remember when I first saw him working that joke out, like I was like fucking dying. And by the way, I want to distinguish a little bit because his first two albums, no one talks about. For some reason, everyone thinks that his first special was that HBO special with the green eggs and ham joke in it. And he has two albums before that that are the funniest albums, some of the funniest albums I've ever heard. I'll put that in top 10. It's up there for me. And it's always going to be funny. If you haven't heard
really
them yet, you'll find them on Spotify. But yeah, he's a huge influence on my style and a lot of what I write. And then I think that Rory Scovel too.
Mm-hmm.
I like Rory Scovel a lot. Rory Scovel takes a lot of risks, you know? He's on stage, he's doing shit that it's like, I mean, just this will sum it up. He did, for a while, he worked out a 1 hour special that was entirely improvised. Like, what the fuck? Like, he was touring that, like an improvised hour. Like, I can't, this is fucking blow my mind, you know? Like, and he can do it if you watch him, like, you know, he's not just like he is fucking around up there, but like he knows, like he obviously knows the ins and outs and like how to interact and like what he should be doing to get to that point. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I like the risks that he takes. I like how fucking absurd he is, just absolutely ridiculous, and just like he'll invert every moment, and he doesn't really care. He cares about the audience, but he cares more about like being defiant and just being crazy, you know. Like, so
crazy.
I dig that a lot about him. I mean, so I guess those,
yeah, Rory Scovel, Pete Holmes, and Maron.
Yeah, I would say those are maybe top 3 for me. I love Maria Bamford a lot. She's amazing.
Oh my God,
huge influence on me. And just because like I don't think anyone can do what she does, you know, like literally no one. She adds layers and voices and like just like these alternate realities that like seem like they only exist in her head. And then sometimes you won't notice what she's doing until you listen to it for the 3rd time. You know, it's like
exactly. Yeah, it took me I think 3 listens to figure out what she was doing, and then once I was on board, I'm like, okay, all right, Jesus take the wheel. This is amazing. And I
Yeah.
mean, with that whole balloon analogy, like some people are making one, she's making like fucking cats and dogs and
Yeah.
flowers and just handing them out to kids at birthday parties.
She's miles ahead of everybody, you know?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, she's incredible. She
So fucking good.
she she taught me what comedy could be.
Mm.
Like this is sort of okay, like you understand jokes, okay, you understand act outs, all right, fine. This is like, okay, here's like the back room, like here's where we keep all the cool shit, here's where we keep all like the alien weapons and shit. This is Maria Bamford. And it's super inspiring. It's super,
Oh
I'm so
yeah.
glad you said Bamford. You just like put me in a good mood. um she's incredible. Oh my gosh.
She's and what she never stops. Like every single album is just like amazing, you know? Like I don't
Mhm,
think it's come to a point where I'm like, oh, she's losing it. I've never felt that, you know, like,
mhm.
and that happens with a
Well, I
lot
mean,
of
she's usually losing it, but it's not her abilities. She's
yeah. Okay, I know what you mean.
very mentally ill.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Um, so I think for me, my comedy Rushmore. I mean, sorry, I should not presume that you care, but I feel like we're going tit for tat.
Oh yeah, but I mean, I'm not gonna just take all your fucking. Come on, we're having a conversation. Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Um, I think I would say so. You talked about watching Bill Cosby and not really realizing what you were watching. We kind of grew up with stand up in my house. Stand up was like kind of always on, or at least my mom would always just let me watch a lot of like Comedy Central. So I had a pretty early conception, but there was one bit in particular that like kind of brought me online. It's like you're born seeing color, but you always remember like the first thing that really just like the first sunset or whatever, like the first thing that gets you out of there. And for me, it was Patton Oswalt's bit about how fat people say the word "be" differently. So like they have like
Walter, and I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I bought the bracelet. It's a very beautiful bracelet. And he said, and the phrasing, the premise is like, I don't want to get to be where I'm B word fat.
Yeah.
I don't want to be B word fat. And I just remember listening to that, and I was just like, that scene from The Hangover where he's like doing all the like Galifianakis is doing all the math and all the like
Yeah.
symbols are going all over that was
Like
me.
the
That
Rain
was
Man scene.
yeah, the
From,
Rain Man scene.
yeah.
That was my Rain Man moment where I was like, oh, 256. It's just like, I mean, I could see the source code, and that's what got me really, really. I remember distinctly not being able to record that because I think for whatever reason we couldn't record, or like I wasn't able to find that bit is what I'm trying to say, because it was a trailer for like Comedy Central Presented. He was on it, but it wasn't
Mm.
explicitly his set or his special. And so I just remember just like watching that same time slot over and over and over, trying to find the guy that does the B word joke. And I finally did, and I finally, was sucked into this universe, and I'd go on these long walks listening to like Mulaney and CK and
Yeah. All of them.
Oswald. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Oswald, I
So
love too because he's incredibly inventive. He
mhm.
comes up with, by the way, he has a thing about words. Like he'll make up words that are just really funny. That like
Yeah.
literal, like they're his own neologisms, his own inventions, and it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
hilarious. Yeah, and
He
it's
he has one that I really like, ass grinding halt. I use that all the time. I fucking came to an ass grinding halt. Oh man. Yeah.
oh man, so he has one of my favorite bits ever as well. It's the sky cake bit.
Oh, how did I know that was gonna be? I was like, he's gonna say sky cake. There's no way he doesn't say sky cake. Oh my god.
It's the best. It's like there's just so much social commentary in it, but it's also like
Mm-hmm.
he just sums up like all of civilization somehow,
Mm-hmm.
and it's yeah, it's fucking so funny. So
Sky
like
cookies, sky pie, sky baklava. We can all share. Nail that motherfucker to a
yeah, that's so
cross.
fucking cross.
And when he like loses it, when he's just like, the only way sky cake tastes good. I didn't spend my life not raped. I'm not gonna run the bit, but it's. I
It's
mean, I
cool.
totally was for a
It's
second.
always funny, like it's never not
It's so good.
funny. Yeah.
Oh my god. Sky cake. Oh my
Next
gosh.
time you see a conservative trying to ban a Harry Potter novel, just look up in the sky and say, "Oh, sky cake."
Sky cake. Why are you so delicious? Oh my gosh. Yeah, he's incredible.
Yeah,
He's
those
incredible.
were yeah.
What do you do when like nothing's coming out? Just it's just the pen is running dry, the hand won't move.
That's a great question. Because that's something I feel like that's something that like a lot of people struggle with. It's at a
Mhm,
certain point. And I think that I'm gonna go back to what I said earlier. The way usually that I'm able to write something that I think is like good or worthy or something that I can use is when I experience something. So what I say, if it's running dry for you, go out and fucking do something, go out and do something, that's interesting to you, that's not necessarily related to comedy. And then you
mhm.
can come back with some fresh ideas, I think. Like the newest joke that I have, what's funny is like, I mean, it's just experiences. Maybe you don't go out, maybe you just do something. Like I started playing chess online and I have a joke about that, where it's like the one thing that I've noticed that I'm really worried about when I play chess online is when I play against people with douchebag usernames, because I put so much pressure on myself to beat the person with a douchebag username. It's like, man, I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself if I don't beat 69ing your grandma, So it's like, because I did play
Yeah.
against a guy named 69ing your grandma, and it was like,
Oh,
I
what a
better beat this
fucker.
motherfucker. Like, yeah.
Jesus.
So yeah, I think just go out and experience something. If whether you're going outside or you're doing something new or whatever, don't just sit there. Because if you just sit there and try to think of something, I think it's really hard sometimes for it to get to
Oh
you.
yeah.
Mhm.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, it's interesting to hear about everybody's process, I think. Specifically, everybody has their writing process, but I almost think it's more interesting to be like, okay, but like what if nothing's happening? What do you do when the wheels aren't
I
turning and
think
you're
that's a
stuck in the
great
ditch?
question. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And
I mean,
it's,
if anything, it's useful for me too, because sometimes I need tips and
I
tricks.
yeah, and I think that you can extend that to your life as well, because what I'm trying to say is that sometimes you get so bogged down into thinking about comedy, and it's like sometimes, like a lot of times, to be honest, if you talk to me for a little while, you'll realize it's almost all I think about. I
All
think
I
about
think
comedy a
about.
lot, like I
Nope.
think about it like all the time, and it's like, but like that's the thing, you get yourself into that mindset where it's just this kind of like loop that goes around in a circle, and you can drive yourself crazy. So if you don't get out there and experience more things, if you don't get out there and try to have like a full life, then you will fucking drive yourself crazy. I think it's healthy to have new experiences as well, and then you'll come back with a fresh mind, you'll come back with like new perspectives, so I think it's good just generally.
Mhm.
Mhm.
That's a very good strategy. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think that's probably the most human way to do comedy too, is to
Yeah.
just suck in everything, take in everything, experience everything, feel everything, analyze everything, and really, get that zest for life. Um,
That's
I'm
why
making it seem
that's
like we're like
yeah.
chefs, like da, 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 da.
It's like Emerald. You remember Emerald Lagasse? Remember that guy? You know what I'm talking about?
uh, if the name Emerald sounds familiar, but you're gonna have to run
Okay.
that by me.
It won't take that long to describe him. He was the guy where he would get up to a certain point in his recipe, and then he would just like throw something in the pot and be like bam, like that was his catchphrase. He would just say bam, like that was his thing. I don't
Yes,
It might
yes.
be before, yeah, but yeah,
It is before my time, but I vaguely
yeah.
remember Bam.
I don't even know how long that guy was around doing that. I don't. I mean, obviously we don't hear about him anymore, but
Mhm.
yeah, I'm not sure why I brought him up.
No, I think it was because that's what you do when you're in a rut, or that's what you do when you're. Hold on.
Cool.
Decline. Somebody was FaceTime videoing me. I wanted to know what I was up to. Okay, yeah. So it's interesting that you say that because I do the exact opposite. When
Cool.
when I can't think of anything, I literally sit. This is I'm gonna sound like a fucking serial killer, but I literally go into my room and I turn off all the lights and I just stare at a wall. And I don't have any music on. I don't have any groovy smells or anything. I literally just stare at the wall and I just let my mind go. And it just like all these weird thoughts start entering. Because the thing is like your brain is actually really good at entertaining itself. Like obviously your phone is really entertaining, your computer is really entertaining. Like there are things that you can do outside of you, but your brain, if it's like backed into a corner, is like, fuck it, like okay, everything now. I mean, it's just like open up the gates, give him every idea possible. And for me, I mean, maybe not with the whole room example, but for me, I just sit and I just like I mean, you know that scene from Harry Potter where he's like stabbing the journal with the basilisk
Yeah.
fang?
Is it
Yeah.
because it was like a Horcrux? I don't remember. It's been a
No,
long time.
yeah, there's reasons why he's doing it, but you know,
Okay.
it's the image is what I'm going for, you know, just like
Uh,
fucking stabbing the journal. And it's like it's uncomfortable and I feel like I'm not writing anything interesting and anything good. So I just grit my teeth. I like break my teeth at this point. I mean, I really just like force myself to squeeze out words.
I know what you mean. I know that there are people that do that. If I tried to do that, I would fucking go insane, I think. But like that's
well,
definitely yours.
well, I have some news for you. You know, it's not without its side effects.
Oh, that's funny.
But I'm definitely one of those people that loves to like delve into the bottom reaches of my brain, like what's behind all the dark, you know, oily corners of my mind. And so for me, that whole process is just like really getting to know, like, okay, when everything's quiet and the sky is dark, you know, what comes out. Um, and sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's not so good. Um,
That's
but
that's an interesting line to skirt too sometimes. Sometimes I'm not sure if you were getting at this or not, but there's sometimes I come up with an idea that ends up being like pretty insightful, but then like
mhm,
you feel like it should be funny, but it's not really funny. It's just like right and it makes sense, like and
yeah,
and sometimes you can make those types of ideas funny. You like making points on stage, like that's a big part of comedy, it could be a big part of comedy, but like sometimes it's just like, you know,
yeah.
it's social commentary and it's nothing more, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes all you get out of the bit is like, uh-huh. Like you don't get ha ha, you get aha. So,
Exactly.
you know, you kind of get the like the kind of nod, the lean in.
Yeah.
Um and obviously you want ha-has as much as possible, but I don't think that it's necessarily always bad if you sprinkle a couple of like hmms in the yucks. You know what I mean?
Of course. I was gonna say that like I feel like that's one of the ways you can get applause breaks. If you
Mm-hmm.
have if like people will clap if you make a really good point and you're funny at the same time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah, I get
that's
the
like
infamous
part of the
clapter.
secret. Yeah, exactly. Like it's
Yeah.
like it'll make you look, like if you're just funny the whole time, maybe they'll laugh a lot. And then it's like I feel like there's a couple ingredients to it. If like what you're doing is ends at a crescendo that's like really clever, claps.
Mm-hmm.
If
Mm-hmm.
it's a really good point and it's also funny, claps. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's those two for sure. Like
Mm-hmm.
and laugh at the same time. Yeah.
So I have one question that I ask a lot, and I ask because I have my answer. I almost always have questions that I have my own personal answer to, so that way we can kind of like compare notes. That's sort of my my style.
Yeah.
But
So it's
yeah,
like you took it a step further than me because I don't have that. I just asked with
I just asked.
no
Yeah,
reason.
with
Like,
it's like that's very nice, huh? Um, I hadn't thought about that.
like that butterfly? That's
Oh,
all it
wow.
is.
Oh, no shit. But what's a bit that you will live and die by, but you have not been able to crack?
Oh
Every time you
God.
try it,
Yeah.
it's just, it's like it's your white whale, as it were.
You know what's funny is that like, okay, I would use this a lot. And it's like, I remember thinking about it at the time that I thought about it and always thinking that it's like the funniest thing. And by the way, it's like a kernel. It's not even really a whole bit. It's just like, and I've written whole bits based off of it,
Mhm.
but they just never go anywhere. So this is it right here. Do you think that loan sharks are comfortable around regular sharks? And like literally, I think that's so funny. Like I will laugh at that every day in my own head. Like, and it's
I
like
like it.
sometimes people laugh, and then sometimes people are like, "What are you? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard." You know, like,
I mean, I like it. I like it.
thanks. I think it's for a specific crowd too. That's another thing about comedy is that people don't tell you this in the beginning as much as maybe they should, but you're looking for your audience.
Yes.
That's what you're doing. You know, you're not gonna play the same to everybody unless you're like a comedian that's meant to like, unless you're like Kevin Hart and everyone loves you. You know, you're not gonna be that guy. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
but if you like, for me, if you look at someone like Dimitri Martin, very specific people like Dimitri Martin. You know, like smarter,
Yes.
weirder indie people are gonna like him.
Yeah.
You know?
Offbeat.
Yeah, and that's who he wants to appeal to. Like those are the people that he's playing to. He's not going to play to someone who likes Jeff Foxworthy, you know.
Hmm.
Um, so I feel like it's a good thing to keep in mind when you're doing bits in a certain area, and you're like, how are these like not funny? I would say like try those same bits somewhere else and see what
Hmm.
happens. You know.
Yeah. Swap the
Yeah,
demographics a little bit.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's something that I would notice too is that weird thing about like I started in LA,
Hmm.
and I didn't feel like I had the opportunities that I could have starting. By the way, starting in LA is super daunting. It's incredibly
Oh, I'm
daunting
sure.
place to start in because a lot of people go to LA after they've already been doing comedy like for a long time because they want to make it, you know, like that's what it is. And
Hmm.
so if you're starting there and you're just like trying to figure everything out, and it's difficult and it's really dense. It's really like saturated. A lot of comedians,
Yeah.
ton of fucking comedians. It's like everyone's going looking for stage time. But it's like if you really want stage time, you probably have to pay for it. Do you really want to pay $5 every fucking mic? You know, like
Yeah. It adds up fast.
yeah, and plus at the same time, it's like not only that, there's just a fuckload of people there. You'll pay $5 and you'll wait like an hour, like 2 hours to get up on whatever it is, longer than that. So it was just harder to get stage time. So I moved from LA. Went to down here when I started living in Long Beach, and I started doing a lot of stuff in the OC because it's way easier to get stage time, like a lot of free stage time. The people were easier to get along with for the most part. I will say this though, the OC is like an incredibly regressive, like gross kind of play. It can be, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, Huntington Beach is in the OC. It's like the Florida of California. You probably heard that. Maybe you have.
Yeah.
It's yeah, but it's so what I'm trying to say, there's a long-winded way of saying there are jokes I will do in the OC that maybe are like weirder, that maybe won't work in the OC, but they'll definitely work in LA. That's what I'm trying to say.
Hmm.
But it took me a while to even figure that out. You know, I needed
Well,
to.
then, I mean, so that's I think what's so important about recording everything and writing everything down is, you have these like little ditties that you do that would like kill in Atlanta or Austin or Portland or any college campus, but it lands flat as it should in the middle of, fucking Burbank, or like, it just doesn't go anywhere in fucking Dallas, Texas or something. And it's like,
Uh,
oh shit, what am I doing? But it's like, okay, no, keep that, write that down, keep that.
yeah.
And then now, as you have these weird, Bamford-esque, Oswald-esque thoughts, keep that body and then fucking slap it down at these more your speed, more your audience mics, and they'll do very well. I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. There's been jokes. I have a joke that I came up with, which I was convinced was the smartest thing ever, but it's like, I knew no one would ever get it. And I tried it at this, literally, it was called The Nerd Mic. And that was the only, I prefaced it. I was like, I'm going to do this because I know you guys will get this, God damn it. And the joke is, what was it? I have some jokes about solipsism, but I don't know who I can tell. Yeah, there you go. But but that is such a Legoless fucking
target.
eye of the yeah, that is such a targeted joke. But I'm glad I didn't get rid of it, because that was my opener, and then it's okay, we're getting into this.
I think that, what's funny, like, I think that's a good opener, but at the same time, I feel like it's also good when you have like maybe a strategic pause in the middle of your show, and it seems like you're searching for something, and then you say that, and then
kind of like a
yeah, exactly. Like, what I'm trying to say is, like, people are already into you, like, they're gonna listen to you. That's another thing, by the way, on the other side of the coin. If you have an audience, they'll listen to you for a while. You'd have to bomb pretty hard, like, after getting an audience, for them to like stop like giving a shit, like once you grab an audience, it's like they're gonna go with you for almost anything you do for a bit. It's like you have to like kind of identify that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think this is a totally weird question, but like, I feel like when I'm doing especially well, if I'm like in the pocket or whatever, I almost feel like this like muscle in my head flexing. Like, I feel like I'm like, it's a very strange feeling, but like for you, when you're in the pocket, when you're just like floating on air, slicing and dicing, cutting through the cheese and eating up the pork, those aren't expressions people use, but I'm just trying to come up with a way of describing doing good on stage. What does it feel like? What is that experience like?
It's a good question too. I remember you bringing me back to a lot of memories that I've had when through comedy. So I remember the first time I killed.
It always gets easier, doesn't it?
You don't really know what.
I was just, the first time you kill, it always gets a little easier.
Yeah,
you take a life.
A little yes and a little no, and I'll tell you why. But I'll say just real fast that after you kill the first time, you think you're going to kill every time, and that's not true. So
100%. Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to like get out of the way first. But like, yeah, you have to keep that in mind. But I was going to say that I remember killing for the first time, and I'm like thinking in my head as I'm doing it, I'm like, it was like an out of body experience. And it still is when I do really well. But the first time that it happened, I was like, oh my God. In my mind, I'm thinking to myself in my head, I'm like, I don't even like, I didn't feel like I was consciously doing it. I was just doing it, like it just felt so natural to do. And I was just riding this wave, and I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just like moving with the energy of the audience and like kind of ebbing and flowing with them. And it was just like this wave that just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it was just like, it was fucking incredible. I wasn't conscious of it. Like, I think you get up to a certain point where it's like, when you're in a pocket, you kind of like, it's like you position yourself in a way to succeed.
No, I totally understand what you mean.
Yeah. And then it's like, when you get that adrenaline, it's like, there's almost no stopping you. And then when I got off stage, I remember when I got off stage, that was when it was awkward, because I didn't know how to take it in. I've never had that experience before that. And I was like, I didn't know how to talk to anybody. Like, I was just like, oh my God. Like, I was just like, I was like in awe, like in shock. And it was like, I didn't know how to process it. And I probably wasn't pleasant to talk to that day. Even though
you're probably insufferable.
What?
You're probably
Not because of
insufferable.
that.
Yeah.
Not because of that. I wasn't gloating or anything. I wasn't like,
Mm.
oh my God, did you fucking see me in there? I wasn't doing that,
Whoa.
like, come on. They should shut the show down after that. Like, what are you doing?
Do we even need any more comedy after this? Like, do we like somebody call Chappelle right now? I
I
think
think this
I cracked
room
it.
just got comedy to buy this guy, it's just like
Yeah, they understand.
shitting on everyone. No, I wasn't. I wasn't doing that. I didn't know how to talk to anybody. It was just so overwhelming to me. And then the booker came up to me and she was like, "I think you have the best set here tonight." And I'm like, "Thank you." And I probably just sounded like, ugh, I didn't know how to talk. But that was it.
I think you're absolutely. I think I love the way that you said that. You said you position yourself for success, and I think what I wanted to say right after you said that is like, it's almost like you couldn't help but kill.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't help but go up there and do the best possible job.
That's what it felt like. Yeah.
It was inevitable almost. It was like, of course I'm going to kill. Of course I'm going to do this.
Well,
of
but like
course.
I do want to like put a caveat in there and say that I wasn't thinking that when I got on stage. I just knew.
No.
Yeah.
And if you do think that ahead of time, you'll eat shit.
Probably.
I mean,
it's good to be confident, but
yeah, I mean, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it's interesting that, there is this sort of inevitability to a lot of it. It's like, I'm not steering a car per se. I'm just, riding an avalanche. I'm going to head to the bottom of the mountain. I'm going to the base, but I'm just, carrying the rest of the mountain with me as I'm going down.
Because and like I said, at a certain point, you hit that pocket, and they will go with you wherever.
Oh yeah,
you go,
oh yeah, they're just like hitting trees and shit. It's like, come on, let's go.
Yeah,
yeah. Base camp is waiting. Well, let's see. What else do we got? So we talked a little bit about, one side of the coin. The next side is, of course, bombing. So, when you're bombing, what is that like physiologically, psychologically? What's going on inside of Andrew when Andrew is just eating shit?
This is harder to answer than the other question, I think.
No, it's a lot. It's harder to say. It's harder to think about.
Yeah. I'm gonna say it feels like no one hears you. And I know that I said it feels okay. It's like, yeah, no, that's kind of what it feels like. It feels like you're up there. You're not literally screaming as loud as you can, but it feels like you're screaming as loud as you can, and no one knows that you're doing it. Like for me, that's kind of how it is. And I remember one time when I bombed. It's at a bar show, which, by the way, if you're gonna bomb, it's pretty easy to do it at a bar show, more than I think a lot of other places. That can be a challenge over time. If you're at a busy bar, a crowded bar, you're doing a show, and no one knows that you're doing a show in that bar, and the game is on, and nobody gives a shit that you're doing comedy, you'll find a lot of situations like this. Yeah, I was in this situation, and I just remember like telling my jokes, and like people that were like actually looking at me, and I'm thinking, what the fuck? Like I just did like two or three jokes in a row that like I know work, like that's crazy. When you get to a point where you're like, that the jokes that you're telling are like pretty tried and true, pretty tested in most situations. Pretty decent. And then you tell them to people's faces and they just stare at you blankly.
Okay. I get
terrifying.
So I'm hearing what you're saying. You have a cat, and I was like, I was so mind fucked for a second. I was like, did his hands just become like super furry? I was so confused. I was so mind fucked for a second. I can't describe to you how out of body I was for a minute.
Be great. I was just like Garfield hand randomly, you know.
Or if you did one of those like AI deep learning, just like just started looking like a dream.
Like the
But
Matrix. Like
oh yeah, yeah, goddamn. But
this is like the
so
whole.
we were talking about bombing, and yeah, God, it's so interesting that you say specifically like jokes that work, just
Yeah.
completely hitting just this seawall essentially.
Uh-huh.
This just absolute. There's no connection with the shore. Um,
And
yeah,
about yeah, I did. By the way, I did. I think I did describe a very specific bombing situation. I think what I described is like the worst way you could bomb. I think that's the worst way you could bomb.
I think so too. I think
Yeah,
so too.
because it's
Yeah,
like you're like what I worked so hard at these jokes and I know they work. What the fuck is happening? You know.
yeah.
The other way to do it is just newer material that you think might work, or maybe who knows, where it's like who knows what's going to happen there, and then you bomb so hard that people think you don't know what you're doing. You know, that's
Oh God. Can I tell you a story? So I don't usually write longer form bits, but I did. I typed one up and I posted it on a Facebook group just to like share and be like, hey, look, I'm trying to make this bit work. It's been months. I need some help. And I posted it, and one of the guys was like, hey, how long have you been doing comedy? And it was just such a punch in the nose. I was just like, okay, dude, all right, you could just say it's bad. Oh my God. It killed me. I'm sorry, that was a small aside, but I know exactly what you mean.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's another long form bits aren't there. Those can be difficult to weave in and out of. I was gonna say that, yeah, like obviously not everyone does them, and but yeah, I've had a bit that I've been working on for a while that is like a longer like story, and I guess if you don't pepper in like punchlines here and there, people will get lost in the middle of it, and that's just a tough. I'm not even that kind of like. Do you know Mike Birbiglia?
Mhm.
Yeah, so he's a kind of comedian that does that really well.
What? Who does? Who peppers in?
Yeah, well, his entire thing is like a narrative. Like every special he does is like an overarching narrative of a specific point in his life, you know?
Mhm.
Um, so it's like not everyone does that. Like that's how he approaches it. He kind of approaches it like a one-man show type of thing, you know? It's almost like a
That's a
novel.
very good way of thinking about it. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like no, he's like the master at that. It is, I think it's really hard to like have a story that's like 10 minutes long and like keep people interested the whole time, you know, because it's not like you're not, it's not like you're doing a bit. It's not like you're doing a regular bit that's like about an observation or whatever, you know?
No,
Yeah.
I mean, but there will be observations inside of the bit,
Yeah.
or inside of the story rather. There will be things that he'll kind of like take a left, take a right. It's sort of like he's driving, but he's sort of admiring the scenery on the way there.
Hmm.
So, he,
Definitely.
he does have that ability to kind of alternate between detail and direction pretty well.
He does.
So
I mean, I think one of my favorite specials ever is My Girlfriend's Boyfriend.
very good one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Very, very good
he's
one.
fucking great, amazing. Um,
You know,
yeah, yeah. These are, and you know, it's. I always wonder like what I can. I have a bit about. It's actually really long, and I haven't. It's tough to do at a mic because it's like I don't even know if I can barely fit it into like a 5 minute section or whatever. But it's about when I used to work for Uber. I picked up an old Korean man who thought I was kidnapping him. So and it's just
God,
an
that must have been
insane
great.
day, insane story. So it's like, and yeah, it's kind of long. So
Mhm. So, I guess, hmm, I mean, we're almost out of time. These usually run for about an hour. I should have said ahead of time, but I think I might have said that at some point. And if I didn't,
Probably, maybe. I've been, yeah, like I've been forgetting a lot of shit lately.
me too. Me too. Yeah, I
So
have to be.
maybe-
I mean, I live in memento. I mean, you can't. Usually, my hands and arms are just
I was
covered
just
in
gonna
fucking.
ask you, like, where's your grocery list for today? I don't know. It's
Let
like
me
your
check the inside
shoulder,
of my eyelids real quick.
like eggs, milk, bacon.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I have to be super, super careful with that. But I guess I'm excited to have you on the show specifically. So like every person I interview, every person that I have on Show Aesthetic, I have them there because I like them. Yes, they're funny. Yes, but I try to pick people that do something that I either want to see in my performances, like I'm almost studying you, or it's something that I don't typically see.
Mm,
And with you, you have this very not happy-go-lucky, but you have this very approachable persona.
that's good that
But
you
behind it, yeah, no, I mean, I think that's true.
I
I think
appreciate
but
that. Mm,
you're like, you know what you are? It's like you're like a likable microscope because you're this very like nice, sort of kind looking guy with, this, happy voice, happy outlook. But like behind it is just like beep, 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 like super, super, super detail oriented approach to comedy that, obviously I'm talking to you right now and I'm getting even more of that. But I could even feel it through your writing, through your performances, just through like, banter and shit. Like there's this really intense analysis that goes on, but it's wrapped up in this very like nice dude.
thank
So and it's a
you.
good combination. Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it's cool. I, to be honest, I've never heard my comedy explained in being like happy-go-lucky, but it's like
Well,
I'm not saying that's bad. I dig that. I want people to like me when I can get that to happen, because there's so often I can go the other way around where people are like, what's wrong with that guy? Like whatever it is. Like,
well, maybe my definition of happy-go-lucky is a little bit variable, but I think I think it's pretty happy-go-lucky.
thanks, man.
So yeah, but it's not like stupid stuff. It's not just like you going like, I'm just this big oaf. I don't know what's going on. It's intelligent stuff.
I appreciate that. Sometimes, dude, sometimes I will go to such an absurdity that it's like it is dumb shit. But I think some of it is, it's weird. It's one of those things where it's like that joke I told you earlier. It's just stuff that I think is just the stupidest thing that it's like it has no consequence whatsoever. Like literally, if you're mad at that joke, you're literally mad because it's so dumb. And it's like, why are you mad? Because it's so dumb. Like put more energy into other things that like you like
that matter.
Yeah. Like, I think that's
Yeah.
why I write some of those jokes,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. Well, before we get out of here, is there anything that you would like to plug before we conclude?
Let's see. Oh yeah, I'm starting my show up again. Laughing while you're on it. Yeah, laughing while
Yes, yes, I
crying.
am.
Yeah, and that's on the 16th, Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Free show if anyone wants to come, and it's we take donations, so let's see if
Very
I can
nice.
see my comic. I don't know. I feel like I'm doing a live stream right now, so I'm talking as if people are
Well,
watching. But
I mean, so what I'll do is if you'll send me just like a link or whatever, I'll put it
uh,
in the description of this YouTube video
perfect. Okay.
and in the SoundCloud. Yeah.
Awesome. That sounds good. I
Yeah.
have a podcast too. I don't know. I gotta be honest. I don't know why I'm still plugging this thing. It's been over for like a few months at this point. So people can listen to it. I always thought that it was fun. It's just an experiment. I don't know if we'll ever get a chance to do again. And it's pretty unique. So I just think it'd be cool if people still listen to it. It's called Please Send Help, with an exclamation point at the end of it.
Mhm.
And if I'm going to sum it up, it's about two comedians trying to do a podcast, but they almost die every time. So that's what it's about.
That's actually pretty good. I like that idea a lot. All right, Andrew. Well, it was this is one of the more fun interviews I've done. I felt maybe it's because I was using my phone. Maybe something about being hands-free, something about whatever. But this was a nice conversation, really nice interview. I didn't even feel like it was an interview. I feel like it was just a
Just
conversation with some
hanging.
questions. Like, yeah, exactly.
Man.
Exactly. So I will see you this Tuesday, tomorrow night at 9 Eastern Standard. Check-in is at 8:45. I usually open the room like 30 minutes prior. I just like bullshit, play some music, talk to people or whatever.
Okay.
And then yeah, the actual show starts at 9:05. But yeah, I'm super excited to see what you got for us. I'm super excited to see what everybody has. And yeah, thank you very much.
Dude, thank you so much for having me for this interview and for the show. I really appreciate it.
Of
Yeah,
course.
sweet. I'll see you
All
tomorrow,
right.
man. Later.
Peace.